We're going to be looking at a question here based on some things I've heard and I've seen. We don't spend a whole lot of time talking about going forward and whatnot, talking about just the little kids. And now it looks like they're defining generations by 10 or 12 years, which is really crazy. But there's a question that we're being confronted with here now, something that we've been concentrating on here since the very beginning of my program. I have always looked towards and at the young. I did not look at the civil rights generation. As you all know, I'm the guy who coined the phrase, you can't trust these old niggas, because I had written them off 2 decades ago. I said the only thing we have control over is our generation, and we're going to just start from right there. And I've looked forward the whole time. I have not turned around and looked back except to remind you all about how much they failed. And now, finally, there are some other people doing it. They're finally looking at that too. Charlie Kirk was to be their anointed one. He didn't really make very much traction, to be totally honest, but they were hoping it would be the beginning of something. And it was just really talking to the converted. However, it's going to bring us to the question here tonight, because Jake Tapper was recently on the Reason podcast, and they had asked him a question. They had asked him a question about politics going forward. I want you to hear what they said here. Fair use, by the way, Reason. Fair use. And I want you to hear the answer, the question that they asked Jake Tapper, which I disagree with the way they framed it. Vehemently so. There is not a generational clicking together with the baby boomer / civil rights generation and Gen X at all. But so, tell me you're out of the loop without telling me you're out of the loop. But listen to what he asks, and then listen to what Jake Tapper tells him.
Final question. You are Gen X, right?
Yes, solidly so.
Yeah. Okay. So do you see, and, there's, and obviously Gen X and boomers spent most of the 80s and 90s fighting with each other because they're mortal enemies. Now it's becoming clear boomers and Xers are kind of on one side of a generational divide, and millennials and Gen Z are kind of on the other side. Do you see anything coming out of younger Americans, say people under 45 or under 40, that will radically alter, the politics of the country or the energy or the optimism level?
My impression of millennials and Gen Z is there's actually going to be quite a division between them. I think millennials, and this is just anecdotal, do not hold me to this and do not reply in the comments. My impression of millennials is that they are fairly, obviously there are exceptions, but they're fairly progressive. And I think Gen Z is going to be a lot more conservative. I think that just my experience knowing Gen Z kids, my kids and their friends and whatever, I sense a much more skepticism of, and I think it is a reaction to Gen Xers and millennials forcing on them progressive views in school. And I think that they're going to be some conservatives. This is my general impression.
Yeah.
I don't fight.
That was an early read. That was.
Okay. Folks, you got to understand, when you make your living sitting in ivory towers in either of the 2 media silos, New York or Los Angeles, you start becoming delusional and telling yourself that New York and Los Angeles represent the United States. That's the problem with being a Jake Tapper. That's the problem with being at ABC, NBC, Fox News. You start telling yourself that New York City, it's not just New York State, but New York City, and specifically Los Angeles, not California, but Los Angeles, represent America. Because in their professions, those are the places they love going. They love going to New York. That's the big city. And the closest thing to the beach or rural for them is California. So in their very limited, very myopic, very quadriplegic existence, quite frankly, that's all they see. That's all they know. Those are all the people that they talk to. So they think that represents America. And literally nothing could be further from the truth. So he's trying to give you his viewpoint or what he thinks, but it's in no way based in reality. And just the first thing out of the gate, the host and then Jake stumble and fall over their own feet and flat on their do a face plant because what they're saying is absolutely false and wrong. The last election showed you that. It was not millennials that moved the last election. That was Gen X. It wasn't millennials that did that. So this is what happens when you don't get out. You don't forget touching grass. You don't talk to people. You don't get outside of your New York, Los Angeles shackles. You can call it a bubble. I would, probably call it solitary confinement. You got to get out of your New York, LA jail cell and go talk to some folks. And not even just New York and LA. If the only folk you're talking to are media people in New York and media people in Los Angeles, and then you only talk to political people in New York and political people in Los Angeles, then you don't know anything. You don't really know about New York and LA, but you don't know anything. Tell me, who are the normal people who don't work in cable television news or corporate media that Jake Tapper knows and converses with? Someone who makes less than 6 or 7 figures, in his case, 7 figures a year. Who does he know? Who does he talk to on a regular basis who doesn't make 7 figures a year and works in cable television and corporate media? So for him to be trying to speak, how many millennials does he know? How many millennials does he talk to on a regular basis? His kids, the ones raised in the ivory tower in the gated community with him. So he's trying to prognosticate about something he's completely out of touch about. What he said was completely false. Gen X and the baby boomers, the beef is on. The beef is on. So the both of these guys here totally out of touch with reality. I'm telling you, Gen X, the beef is on. It took a minute for it to get rolling down the street, but Trayvon Martin, that was the end of it. That was the last straw. The beef is on. We don't hear nothing the baby boomers got to say. We're not listening to the civil rights generation. We done swept them to the side. That's it. It's done. They don't have any influence. They don't have any pull. They don't have anything. So it's very insulting to compare us in any way to them, much less to say that there's some camaraderie or some agreement. Gen X is working night and day to undo the horrendous catastrophic damage that the bastard baby boomers did. So it's really insulting both to the intelligence and to the ego to say there's some sort of linking up between us. All I'm saying, that just shows you're out of touch, man. You're just out of touch. You're completely out of touch. Either that or you're saying something that you wish were true. Now, Jake, either you're out of touch or you're saying something that you wish were true. You see, when Jake Tapper went on Megyn Ku Klux Kelly's YouTube show earlier this year to be taken to task for his pathetic attempt at covering up Joe Biden's mental decline, he was making all kinds of excuses, so he wrote a book to try to explain away and salvage his career and credibility. Spoiler alert, Jake, it didn't work. But Megyn Kelly made sure to say that she was good friends with Jake Tapper. What? Oh, man. I'm like, okay. Well, there was a little tidbit of information I wasn't expecting to get, but thank you very much for saying that, Megyn. Thanks for saying the quiet part out loud. Jake Tapper's your good friend. Okay. Glad to hear that. Because you see, Megyn Kelly isn't friends with people who aren't white supremacists. Let's be very, very clear. Megyn Kelly don't really got nothing to do. She doesn't really associate with people who aren't white supremacists. So, if Megyn Kelly's calling you a good friend, I don't know, man. You might want to do some soul searching and do some introspection and take a look at yourself and be like, is this really who I want to be? You can judge a man by his friends. All right. That's a very real thing to remember. All right, let's go ahead and play a little bit more of this play for you.
It's an early read of Gen Z and then a kind of a beta, but it may be what ends up happening.
But Trump did not win young voters as he constantly says he did, but he did do better with them
That's right.
than other previous Republicans. And I just think that it's not just that he is reshaping and remaking politics and normalizing things that weren't normal 10 years ago. I also think it is a reaction to the failures of progressive movements to achieve what they wanted to achieve, whether it's Bernie Sanders, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's Me Too. I think it's COVID. I think it's a lot of progressive politics being forced.
Yeah, now that was what I was waiting to hear. Oh, the failure of progressive movements to accomplish what they set out to do, whether it's Bernie Sanders or BLM. Who's BLM? And what was it that they failed to do that someone would be unhappy with them? You see, if you're unhappy with something that somebody has failed to do, well, then you're not happy with what it was they were trying to do. You can't say that you're unhappy with what they did if they did not succeed. So what you're saying is that millennials have a problem with what BLM, quote, tried to do, or, quote, BLM tried to do. But you can't say it's because of what they did if you're going to say they didn't succeed. So what was it that they were trying to do that Jake thinks that millennials have an issue with? And furthermore, why are they still bringing up, quote, BLM to this day, people? Folks, BLM has not been a thing. Who is in the streets repping the BLM banner? That was before Joe Biden got elected. Who's in the streets repping the BLM banner? Who's carrying the BLM banner? Why are they so butthurt over BLM? When was the last BLM rally? These folks are sitting up here wearing MC Hammer pants. Damn! Talking about BLM. So what is it about this BLM thing? I educated you all about that. BLM is code speak. BLM is a mass refutation and mass uprising against white supremacy that caused governments, police, and everybody else to literally bend the knee. And they have been humiliated. They were degraded. They've been embarrassed about it ever since. It didn't require a politician. That came from the soil. And they are furious to this day because they told the world that if there were ever another civil rights era, 1960s style national uprising, that the white supremacists who've been hoarding their guns for decades, that they would take to the streets and they'd put all the niggers in their place from sea to shining sea. Remember? That was the story they had been telling, particularly after they took the L in Los Angeles for the LA riots back in the 90s. They said that they come with their fairy tales of Koreans on convenience stores, fairy tales that they still continue to say to this day. So they don't have reality. All they have is a fable that they've created. And they're hoping that nobody actually fact checks the fables. Certainly young people who weren't even born when these things happen. They're hoping that none of them fact check the fables. And so they just go around spreading fables. They never try that in front of those of us who were there and witnessed it. No, they just go off into their 4chan chats and their Discord chats and spread their lies. But they were humiliated after Rodney King was beaten and black folk took the streets in LA. They were completely defeated. The whole city was taken over, and the nation was behind the uprising, not behind the state. That was what destroyed them and beat them in the 90s. That national opinion, we were standing up, we didn't care who didn't like it, and national opinion got behind us and supported Rodney King, not the police, not the state, and not the white supremacist social order. They took a tremendous defeat. And that was truly the beginning of the era when people changed the way that they looked at police in America. Because remember, for those of you who are not there, they always told us that kind of thing didn't happen. I need to remind you, they said that kind of thing did not occur. They told us those kind of things did not happen. Wasn't no police going around yanking black folk out of their cars and just beating them for wasn't that going on? Why, they're law enforcement professionals. That kind of thing's not happening. You Negroes are just lying and making things up with your NWA rap albums. Bunch of stuff nobody ever did. And then you see Rodney King with a dozen police officers standing around, and all of a sudden you had incontrovertible evidence that the folk who had been denying it were lying the whole time. And now everything swung and it changed. So the white supremacists used the police as their foot soldiers against black people, and then all of a sudden you couldn't defend it anymore. Yes, and then we went to Rampart. Everything just fell after that. Everything just fell apart. New York police, we can go down the list. The credibility of the establishment permanently crumbled. Then you move forward 20 years, and next thing you know, we're in the streets again. Only this went on for year after year after year, culminating in the televised recorded murder of George Floyd. A scene that shocked the conscience around the world. And the white supremacists thought that they were going to tweet their way through it. The white supremacists told themselves that they were going to put down this uprising by tweeting their way through it. They thought they were going to hashtag clean shoot, hashtag he was on drugs. They thought that was what was going to happen. Dave Chappelle tried to tell you dummies, Twitter is not a real place. You think you're going to win something tweet. See, what they didn't understand is that when we were on Twitter, we were organizing. We were on Twitter, we were sounding the clarion call. We wasn't trying to win nothing on Twitter. We were talking to each other on Twitter about what's going to happen on the street. These guys were on Twitter thinking that that's where you have to win. We'll troll our way to victory. We'll meme our way to victory. We'll stop the Negroes with our memes and our trolling. Pepe the Frog, don't you know? Yeah, but then they got out here on this street and it was a whole nother damn thing. When it was time to go to work and drive somewhere, it was a whole nother thing. This is not going to be an Instagram struggle. And when they got out here on the streets, they were confronted to finally stand behind their words. Okay, y'all always been threatening about what you would do if the race war ever jumped off. Y'all always been claiming that you were itching for a race war. Okay, well, we out here in these streets, free smoke, coast to coast. Absolutely no waiting. Don't worry about having a ticket, just step on up and get a bag. And what did you see? And they were sitting online talking noise, but they wasn't out here on the streets doing a damn thing. Some of them tried to walk a few places. The Proud Boys tried to walk a few places, and that didn't work out. That didn't work out. Nowhere they tried it. LA, New York, Shreveport, Miami, it didn't work out nowhere they went with it. Detroit, Washington, D.C., didn't work out anywhere. Didn't work anywhere. See, they were supposed to be having footage to show you, that's right, the white supremacist social order is still intact and still running things. There was nowhere they could show that footage, and that was a complete, total, global humiliation. Even the low-key white supremacists and their friends, who take comfort in knowing that the Negroes are held in line and are properly suppressed. Well, you couldn't lie about that anymore, and you couldn't lie and say that the situation wasn't bad enough that you couldn't do anything about it. You had to sit up there and let folks know, yeah, you got punked out in front of the universe. You were always a paper tiger. And as I said from this microphone, I told y'all for the last 2 decades, they don't really want it. What they want to do is get on Fox and CNN and talk trash. They don't want to hit the bricks. They don't really want it. I told y'all, I've been saying for decades, they don't really want this. A lot of y'all heard me when I said it. They don't really want it. All these people talking saber rattling about race war, they don't want that. That's not what they want. They want to just talk about it. They don't want to get down. That's not what they really want. They don't want to get down. They want to find one lone Negro somewhere that 10 or 12 of them can ambush. They don't want it to be straight up 1-to-1 and everybody came ready. They don't, that's not what they ever wanted. They just wanted to signify online. They never wanted it to break down like that. That was not what they wanted to get. They didn't want to get that kind of work. Never. They want to go ambush somebody and sneak up on them. They don't want everybody to be on alert and on post. Because then you're going to find out, oh, you can get it every day. So they are still sore to this day about that, y'all. That was an epic, permanent L that they took, and they are still furious about it because they can't saber rattle about what they would do if the white government wasn't in the way. See, that was the thing they were always trying to threaten about. If it wasn't for the white government, we could handle you niggas the way we want to handle you. Okay, well then for a good 2 years, no white government in the way anywhere. COVID done kicked off. You can grab black folk anywhere except now they're on alert. Well, now that black folk are on alert, that shouldn't be an issue for you. Anywhere and everywhere, all of a sudden you got quiet. All of a sudden you went home. All you did was go on Fox News and talk about, isn't that a shame? They're taking over our cities. I thought you was the big bad Second Amendment folk. I thought that's who you was. You're mad because we showed the whole damn world you were cowards and liars and frauds the whole time. And you can never erase that image. So you're still smarting about that 4 years later. 4 years later, and they're still angry over it. Remember, white supremacists speak in code. So when they say BLM, BLM, and they never tell you exactly what it is that they mean by BLM or what their problem is with it, they never explain that, which means BLM is just code for black. Well, what did the blacks do in 2019, 2020 that upset you so badly? Oh, they proved that white supremacy can be defeated. Even if it's militarily, white supremacy can be defeated. And if you show them that we can do that here, well, that starts sending messages to other people in other places about what they don't have to tolerate. Once again, the foundation here in America is demonstrating to the world how you stop white supremacy. Well, what if the world starts following our lead as they have on literally everything else because we made the culture? I didn't mean American culture or global culture. We set the culture around the world. Well, if the world follows our lead on everything else. Oh, man. See, I want y'all to understand how resistance works. Follow me. This is how resistance works, people. How resistance works is that they have you cowed and scared and afraid and frightened and keep your head low. When the white folks walk by, keep your head low. Don't you look them in the eye, none. Everybody's walking by as they strut their little fat ugly selves along. But then if they say, move out the way. And then you have the one who doesn't move. I said move. And he just stands there. Please understand, that's the insurrection right there. No weapon, no swinging on nobody, no shooting anyone. Them telling you what to do and you don't move. That's the resistance. right there. That is an affront that cannot be tolerated right there. You see, as a white person, he represents the white supremacist social order. So that is not a person telling you to move. That is the thousands of years of white supremacy telling you to move. And when you are standing in front of the crucible of white supremacist might and power and you don't move, you are challenging not just their power, but their legitimacy. Now, there's the issue. How much power do they have if they tell you to move and you don't move? Worse is if people witness it, that they told you to move and you did not move. And let's see what happens if I don't. There've got to be severe consequences if they tell you to move and you don't move. There must be, because everyone's watching to see who's got the real power here. The unstoppable force or the immovable object? So they must jump on you right then, and there must be consequences. When Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat, they said, "Move, nigga!" And she would not move. That was a direct challenge to the white supremacist social order right then, right there. She didn't have to shoot nobody, didn't have to swing on nobody, didn't have to assault nobody. That was it right there. We told you to move, and you wanted to show everybody that you don't have to move. You are basically daring us, and that can't be tolerated. So when they told us to move, and we didn't just refuse to move, we said, "Get over here and make me." Well, now the world is looking at the white supremacist social order and saying, well, I guess we're about to find out who's really got the power around here. And when they failed to be able to move us, that showed the world that we were right about them the whole time. And that is what they've been living with ever since. If you can call this living. They've been living with it ever since. And it's eating away at their souls. They keep invoking it, even though there effectively hasn't been a BLM for years now. They're traumatized, people. They're traumatized. They're not just saying an acronym because people recognize it. They're saying an acronym of the battle that they lost, the war that they lost. And they're desperately trying to get their win back. And there ain't no way to do that because it's a new day. However, they're probably articulating what they wish would occur with the future generation. After all, when you had your chance to prove you was really about that life and you folded like warm laundry, now you're hoping that you can buck up your children and egg on the children to do that which you were too cowardly and scared to do yourselves. You see, when the Jared Taylors egg on the Dylan Roofs to go murder people, well, of course, he's not going to risk himself. He's going to see if he can brainwash the children and make them crash dummies for that which he's too cowardly and scared to do himself. Just like all the others, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, understand those are the generational cowards. They talk trash on the internet. They're not out here on these streets anywhere. It was available coast to coast. They could have shown up anywhere. And for them to sit back and do nothing, monumental, and you cannot rewrite the history. You can't claim that y'all was out here putting in work. All you got to just say is for 2 straight years, you was taking back-to-back L's. But it's not just that, people. It's not just that. It is also the fact that what we proved was that after Trayvon Martin, there would be consequences for murdering black people. And next thing you know, police start going to jail left and right. Right after Jake Tapper's CNN told all of us that it's so hard to convict police for anything. You can't convict. Remember, they were saying that for years. It's too hard to do that. The civil rights generation let them get away with that garbage for 4 damn decades. And they came to us telling us, oh, well, it's just too hard to convict police. If police do something, the world and the court's just going to side with them. I mean, that's just the way it goes, man. That was what they said, remember, over and over and over again. And we said we ain't the civil rights generation. We moving different. Next thing you know, we were on the streets, and then next thing you know, after that, police start getting arrested left and right. Police start getting sentenced to prison left and right. Then they saw a young white female police officer sent to prison, Amber Geiger. Damn! Man, don't you understand? She's supposed to be on Instagram shaking her boo thing and smiling. She's not supposed to. No, young white and blonde kills a black male. No, she's supposed to go. She's supposed to not just walk. She's supposed to skip out the courtroom. And I'm the guy who told all y'all, documented people, my paperwork is platinum plated on the yard. I told y'all Amber Geiger gonna do time. I had folks trying to dispute me on it. I said, Amber's going to do time. Jason, how you know that? Because it's a new day. I even bought billboards in Dallas, Texas, advocating for justice. That you ain't seen nothing like that before. I put my money into that. Got billboards on the freeways in Dallas, Texas, advocating for justice. I told y'all it's a new day. Had radio stations in Dallas calling me. They were too scared to have me on. And I said, sure, I'll talk to you. I told them I'd talk to them, and then they back down. It's a new day. Their job is to convince you that, as Michael Jackson said in The Wiz, you can't win, you can't get even, and you can't get out the game. So CNN and all the news agencies, they promote white supremacy and defend white supremacy. So when you talk to them about white supremacy, they're going to tell you ain't nothing you can do and you can't win. So you might as well just go ahead and accept your lumps and get whatever hell happens to you. Because ain't nothing you can do. We'll talk about racism, but nothing you can do about it. And we said, we'll see about that. Next thing you know, police going to jail left and right, man. And that's when all of them said, oh, hell no. Slam on the brakes. So when they saw a squad of police get sent to prison, people, do y'all realize almost 30 years after Rodney King, they saw a squad of police officers sent to prison for the murder of George Floyd. A squad of them. Do you understand what the optics of that says? I want y'all to understand it wasn't just 1 or 2 people no more. We got the damn Brady Bunch over here about to do time. Unheard of. From Mississippi burning to Minneapolis and the whole damn squad going to prison. Oh, hell no. We got to do something about that. People, do you understand why they are still angry about that to this day? They are furious about that to this day. You can no longer say that police can't be punished anymore. You also can no longer say that police cannot be punished in mass anymore. They can't say that. Yes, just recently they sentenced that cop for killing Sonia Massey. Notice Megan Ku Klux Kelly and Ben Shorty Shapiro ain't saying nothing about that. Why are they not? Why are they not? You want to talk about Ashley Babbitt? Well, why are you not talking about Sonia Massey? Why are they not talking about that? Folks, they still smarting over that. All that happened at the same time. That's because they want to say the damn nigger killed her with impunity. Can you understand how the white supremacist psyche went insane? We're out there in the streets protesting. A black police officer defends the nation's honor against a suspected female white supremacist, and she loses her life as she attempts to overthrow the U.S. government, and is a black man with the gun in hand who defends freedom, justice, and democracy, the American way. And not only did he do it, he'll be celebrated, he'll be honored, he'll be thanked by the government. The optics of that, this white woman's dead, and they are going to be thanking a black man and celebrating him and honoring him for it. Oh, hell no! All that happened at the same time. They watch all that happen at the same time. Do you understand what they mean by we're losing our country? We're losing white supremacy. We're using dominance, the ability to mete out injustice, oppression, mistreat people, to hurt them at will. We lost it, man. What's going on, man? Come on, man! So, they sat there. They had to take that L. And they are still upset over it to this day. Furious to this day. People, they're not going to get over that. They're going to be talking about BLM in 20 years. They're going to be talking about BLM in 20 years as if there's somebody marching around with a BLM flag in 2045. They're going to be talking about BLM in 20 years. This is going to be a stain on their psyche. They're not going to let this go. This is permanent trauma. But I want you to understand something else, because we're talking about the young tonight. And there's a reason why you have seen in the wake of the death of Charlie Kirk, so many of these other people here have attempted to resurrect and legitimize Nick Fuentes. They think that Nick Fuentes has the magic touch. They think that Nick Fuentes can speak to his generation. They think that Nick Fuentes will be able to talk to them. Nick Fuentes is just another clown preaching to the choir. He has no audience outside of what they do. Sitting there with coons like Myron Gaines, it's like, dude, you're hurting yourself tremendously. Once you sit next to Myron, everybody's like, okay. And then, Nick, you already delegitimized all the coons. Candace Owens, Jason Whitlock, the Hodge twins. You already called all them out. I played that here. Dude, you can't have it both ways. So he can't lead anything outside of white supremacist society, a population that's dwindling by the day. So I guess it makes you feel good symbolically. It doesn't translate to concrete progress. You're speaking to a diminishing, shrinking choir. But they're hoping that he will be able to do what the old codgers and old timers have failed at. And that brings me to the next part here, because I was explaining to you all here last night about white supremacy when they use these words, when they talk about Christianity. And then somebody tell me about, well, what about Jesus? And Jesus was Jewish. And I'm like, no, stop. Timmy, stop. No, ma'am, you don't get it. When they say Christianity, they are talking about a social, political white movement, not a religion, not a supernatural-based religious belief system, but a concrete socio-political movement. Well, folks, as it would just so happen to be, well, you know, Nick Fuentes. Why, Nick Fuentes here on Halloween, talk about scary things. Just seemingly as if he had heard me say it. Nick would like to explain to you all about what Christianity is, what it really is. Now, you all heard me last night don't believe me. Listen to what Nick Fuentes is about to tell you. Whether Christianity is about a belief in a higher power, supernatural beings as the origin of the universe, the one fundamental truth handed down by a supernatural being, or whether, as embodied by Jesus Christ, by the way, a supernatural being as embodied by Jesus Christ, with a set of codes and laws embodied by a Jesus Christ, or if it's something else. Because people, I know I'm winding this up for you here, so I've already heard it, but I'm winding it up for you. What if Nick Fuentes is about to tell you all that Christianity of Western civilization predates Christ? What? Folks, what if he's about, can you believe, I can't just say all this and then he doesn't say it. What if Nick Fuentes is about to tell you that Christianity, as the foundation of Western civilization, predates Christ? Okay, now that I've said that, he got to say it. Now that I told you that's what he said, now he's got to say it. Now that I've told you all that's coming. Okay. Oh, it makes total sense. I'll let Nick break it down. Now, Nick is going to be addressing a fellow named Josh Hammer. Josh Hammer is married to a Jewish female. Josh is unhappy because Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson, got together for the Injustice League, bumping their power rings in a interview recently. So Josh Hammer is unhappy with that interview happening, and he was taking Nick Fuentes to task over it, as he does. And Nick gives his response to it, because Josh Hammer talks about their attack, that Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson are the threat to Western civilization. Well, listen to what Nick has to say.
Us of being white supremacist, Christian nationalist, anti-Semites. We're against, what else is Western civilization? Other than white people, other than Christendom. I mean, what else would you call it? Is it anything? I mean, Western civilization is not African. It's not Chinese. It's not Hindu. What are you talking about? We're nationalists. We're pro-white. We're anti-immigration. What are you talking about? Well, he says, we're tackling Western civilization, which for millennia has claimed the Hebrew Bible as its preeminent moral and legal wellspring. The Hebrew Bible? Really? Are you sure it's not the Bible? Because there's kind of an important difference. The difference between the Hebrew Bible and the Bible is that the Bible contains the gospel. Are you sure about that? Did Constantine legalize the Hebrew Bible in the 4th century, or was it Christianity? In this sign you will conquer, was that the Star of David or was that the cross? What are you talking about? And by the way, Western civilization actually precedes the coming of Jesus Christ. And it also includes the pagan Greeks, the pagan Romans, the pagan Germanic tribes. What are
Oh. So you see, Western civilization as embodied by Christianity predates Christianity. He's telling you that throughput line goes all the way back to pagans and Greeks. The line comes from there and then runs through Rome, Constantine, the Catholic Church. It starts way before then. Yeah, before Christ. So the belief set that they have isn't dependent on Christ. He believes in, quote, Western civilization, and he is tracing Western civilization and its religious underpinnings before Christ. People, he mentioned the pagans, people. He mentioned the pagans. That's not a social thing there. He's still invoking religious foundation. And he's saying why the pagans that came before then, why that actually really sets the foundation, and Christianity comes later, and Christianity is a part of that according to him. You heard that for yourself. Oh, yes, folks. What he's telling you is that when they say Christianity, they are not referencing the Christ. They're referencing a belief system, and he's just using the phrase Western civilization. But he already told you what Western civilization is to him: white. So Christianity is merely a construct that they've hijacked in order to legitimize what he said, under this sign shall you conquer. The operative word is conquer, not sign. Oh, well, this isn't a sign to everybody else. This is just a sign to the white men. Like, providence is on your side. Now, folks, there's a reason why they said the word providence. Providence simply means a higher understanding. It doesn't necessarily have to mean a specific embodiment. When Thomas Jefferson sat down for the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident. These truths to be self-evident. So you see, whether you believe in a deity or not, as far as he's concerned, these are rules. These are the fundamental laws of the universe. Shall ye conquer? Why, we believe that it's a fundamental law of the universe. We believe that. Man, I shouldn't do this. You know what? Let me go ahead and let this finish playing here. I shouldn't do what I'm about to do next, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna go ahead and do that and see if we can go ahead and work something out here. Let me go ahead and throw him back on here for a moment.
Is at the cross. What are you talking about? And by the way, Western civilization actually precedes the coming of Jesus Christ. And it also includes the pagan Greeks, the pagan Romans, the pagan Germanic tribes. What are you talking about? All of Western civilization is built on the Hebrew Bible. That's not true at all. The origins of Western civilization are in pagan Greek philosophy, pagan Hellenistic culture, and then the Romans and the Germanic tribes, and then Christianity, not the Hebrew Bible, not the Mishnah, not the Talmud, the gospel. So that's just not, that is the most, this is when I say all they do is lie.
And you're pretty adept at lying too. But by the way, folks, you just heard it with yourselves. If you attempt to play the Jesus was Jewish card, he's telling you that their belief system, well, yeah, they believe in Christianity, but that their belief system is a white Christian belief system. Therefore, the belief system predates Jesus. And he just connected the lines, people. I didn't make that up. You just heard him connect all the lines and say it starts there and then it goes to the Gospels. Because he can't divorce Jesus from the Gospels. You can't do that. So now he's telling you that, by the way, Christianity as a foundation of Western civilization actually exists independent of Jesus. And that actually what they believe in predates Jesus. It predates that. So what he's telling you is that Jesus is not essential to their belief system, which is what I've been telling you the whole time. It's not essential to the belief system because if you don't understand that the belief system is white supremacy and that all of these other arguments are just semantics, if you don't take issue with the white supremacist part of it, it just becomes this circular, nonsensical argument until you pin them down about, okay, let's get to the nitty-gritty. What about this white thing? And when they have to actually be honest, that's what they say. They say that part. When they actually have to be honest. So now you see that he's telling you outright, hey man, what we believe in, you're not going to get us in no trick bag about religion. You're not going to get us in that trick bag, man. We're not going for that. Because what we're doing is the religion is not Christianity. The religion is white supremacy. We just see since white supremacy, since Christianity became a part of the state, it is now a politicized religion. It's a politicized religion. And if you don't understand that, then you will not and cannot understand anything else. You know, I shouldn't go any further, but since Nick wants to bring up the Greeks, he wants to bring up the Greeks and whatnot. You know what, folks? I'm going to do something a little bit different here. Jason, why do you keep saying you shouldn't do this? Because I have another YouTube channel. I usually don't try to cross promote or anything. I have another YouTube channel. And on my other YouTube channel, we have a book list. People have always asked me about, Jason, what's your list of required reading? So over there, for the past couple of months, we've been reviewing my book list, the things that I think are required reading. And we've been covering Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. We've been covering Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power, and very apropos because you see, yesterday I was reviewing with everyone the 22nd law. The 22nd law is use the surrender tactic, transform weakness into power. Now, I'm not bringing this up so much because of the 48 laws of power. I'm bringing it up because if you haven't read the book and whatnot, usually he'll use some type of historical anecdote or some historical story, you know, that he uses as the example to support the law, the particular law that he's giving. Well, there's a reason why I want to do this, and we're going to go over this. We got time to do this. I'm going to go ahead and read this part of the chapter for you all. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to read this part of the chapter to you all so you can see it for yourselves. It talks about transgression of the law, and at the bottom of the page here, you can see what the story is that it says. Let me make sure everybody can see that. Okay, because if they can't, I want to make sure everyone can see that clearly. All right. All right, the story says the island of Milos is strategically situated in the heart of the Mediterranean. In classical times, the city of Athens dominated the sea and coastal areas around Greece, but Sparta in the Peloponnese had been Milos's original colonizer. During the Peloponnesian War, the Melians refused to ally themselves with Athens and remain loyal to Mother Sparta. In 416 BC, the Athenians sent an expedition against Milos. Before launching an all-out attack, however, they dispatched a delegation to persuade the Melians to surrender and become an ally rather than suffer devastation and defeat. Quote, "You know as well as we do," the delegate said, "that the standard of justice depends on the equality of power to compel, and that, in fact, the strong do what they have the power to do, and the weak accept what they have to accept." So for those of you who saw the movie 300, but these are the Athenians telling them. The Athenians are telling them, you all know as well as we do that you're talking to us about justice. The standard of justice depends on the equality of power to compel. And that, in fact, the strong, we do what we have the power to do. And the weak, that's you, Reno. Shout out Samuel L. Jackson, Pulp Fiction. The weak accept what they have to accept. When the Malians responded that this denied the notion of fair play, the Athenians, channeling Richard Spencer, said that those in power determined what was fair and what was not. The Malians argued that this authority belonged to the gods, not to mortals. And this is the part I want to bring you all to. The Malians told the Athenians, hey, that's God. Power is God. That belongs to God, not to men. And the Athenians told them, our opinion of the gods and our knowledge of men lead us to conclude that it is a general and necessary law of nature to rule whatever one can. Our opinion of the gods and our knowledge of men lead us to conclude that it is a general and necessary law of nature to rule whatever one can. Survival of the absolute fittest. You can go to hell with fair play and honor and decency. If I have the power to dominate you, then that is fair. If I have the power to subjugate you, that is justice. As a matter of fact, that is higher than justice. That's God's will. After all, if God didn't want me to subjugate you, wouldn't he stop me? Therefore, if I am able to subjugate you, that is God's will. But beyond that, the fact that I can subjugate you means that I must subjugate you. People, that's what this means right here. It's a necessary law of nature to rule whatever you can. In other words, if I have the ability to rule over you, I have an obligation to rule over you. If I have the power and ability to enslave you, then I have an obligation to do it. These are the people that he's invoking. This is the religion that he's invoking. That what I just read to you, that's his quote unquote Christianity. That doesn't require a divine being. It doesn't require a risen savior. His religion doesn't require any of that. All it requires is white skin and the power to subjugate others by hook or by crook, however you do it. Not a syllable in there about decency. See, that's where we keep getting lost. We keep saying, wait. There's no way that this is divine and it's not decent. It cannot be simultaneously divine and yet not decent. And he's like, want to bet? You want to bet? So when you see them at Turning Point, understand that that's the, quote, religion that they're referring to. Not your literal interpretation of the Holy Biblos. No, this is their interpretation. Oh no, this is a social movement about power, about white power. And that is their description of the divine. The expression of unbridled, barbaric, animalistic, bestial power. That is the divine. That is the godlike. And that is why Charlie Kirk preached to the young people about murdering black people and why that was always good. And he always defended it. He always preached that because, you see, that's God's will. Well, when you talk to him about white folk who got killed, stop. That is evil and wrong. But he doesn't mean evil and wrong as in bad. He means I don't want you getting ideas that white supremacy should not do whatever it wants to do. So it's wrong because that is not the natural order. The natural order is I'm white, I subjugate you. Well, Jason, it's still missing something in here. That can't be enough. Oh, no. There's another part that you're missing. Yes, you see, because there's a so-called pseudoscientific element to it, which is that white people are the last iteration of Homo sapien. They're the last, newest iteration. Well, they can't claim that they're the first people. Not according to the fossil record and archaeological record. It clearly shows that's not the case. But they argue that they are. Well, that everyone before them is just some weird, Cro-Magnon Homo sapien-like creature. The rest of you, you're not really men. White people are the first men. The first men. Shout out George R.R. Martin. What? The Andals, though you can call them the Angles, we're the first men. The rest of you are some weird barbaric offshoot that loosely resembles us, but no. We are the first actual men. So you see, man's history begins with us. The rest of you are subhumans. So anything that we do to you is permissible, just like if we did it to a dog or a goat or a pig. There is no crime being committed here. Now, of course, you all know this. These are really weak, short, weird-looking dudes, and that's what white supremacists, their biggest spokespeople have always been the weird, short-looking little dudes. But here's the problem. The problem is that you are in a system that allows people to think things, and in their weakness, they will sit up and try to promote things in their weakness. And what they'll do is they'll band together around that. They'll band together around that. That's what they do. And other people will listen. That's the part that I want you to understand. The real thing is about them getting other people to listen. That's the issue. That's why tonight we're talking about, are the young becoming more racist? Because Jake Tapper seems to be hoping that will occur. Because you have to understand, what they're looking at is, how do we preserve white privilege? How do we preserve that? That's the whole point, people. If you wish to know what was the entire intent of the white supremacist global colonization experience, it was to establish a system of white privilege. That's all you really need to know. That's all you need to know. They didn't have any privilege where they came from. They watched what we did. They watched what we built. They watched what we made, and everything has been about how do we steal and gangsta our way through all this. There was no white privilege. There was no privilege, period, in the Caucasus Mountains. And I'm not talking down on anyone or degrading anyone. I'm just talking about pure history. There was no privilege there. So they set out to gain it. They set out to create something that wasn't there. Folks were living good down near the equator. Life was hard and was nothing but bestial, animalistic, sound familiar, survival in the ice. There were no privileges. And so they set out to create a world of privilege. Was what they set out to do. They set out to make one. But that wasn't going to come easy. You're going to have to steal everything you get because you don't have anything. And so they set out on a never-ending crusade to establish a world of white privilege, unearned benefits. And of course, there were wars in among themselves. But you see, remember I told you those were honorable things. The survival of the fittest. And that hopefully the fittest would be able to handle anything else that came at them. But the ideology driving it is to establish a world of white privilege, unearned benefits. Jason, for how long? How will I tell y'all last night? For eternity. That they would set up an eternal white privileged empire. And everything else has been a progression of that goal. Everything. So when you arrive in the year 2025, planes, trains, and automobiles, incredible technological development, the Earth's resources have never been more bountiful, more accessible, and more able to transform things. And they managed to control every bit of it there. They're supposed to be reaping all the benefits now. And the problem is, whoa. We checked in Sector 521974. Oh, man, it seems to be a weakening of our power over here in this area. It's a small area, but there are no small areas. We can't afford to lose an inch anywhere. So anywhere that our absolute dominance is or even appears to be waning, that constitutes an emergency. That constitutes a crisis. And the protocol is clear. You step back in and you establish absolute dominance. We are not here to earn anything. We already earned everything. Now we are here to hold that. That will be the only definition of everything. That will be the status of man until the end of time. So in the words of Dr. John Henry Clarke, for them, everything that moves for war. War for the mind, war for the spirit, war for the language, war for your house, war for the land, war for the money, war for the food, war for the resources, war. And so now you start hearing this constant drumbeat from them. They are still the richest people on the planet by far, with everyone else held down into the low single digits. And yet they're telling you that something is wrong. Now, how is it you've got all the wealth, all the power, and yet something is wrong? What could it possibly be that's wrong? Well, this idea of your dominance is challenged. Folks, led by we in the foundation, all of a sudden, we're not accepting that you got dominance over us thing. We're not accepting it. We're not accepting that that's just the way it is and that you sit up and roll by in the Rolls Royce and we sit over here and shuffle our feet and sweep the floor and make sure you're comfortable. That's the problem. They didn't conquer this thing so that we can enjoy any benefits. They conquered this solely and strictly for themselves, which is why they bring up Nick Fuentes to say the quiet part out loud. Tucker Carlson is too cowardly to say it. Although eventually he's going to get there, mark my words. He's been too cowardly. He's been nibbling around the edges, but he's eventually going to say that America is for white people and it was established for white people's benefit. Eventually he'll get around to saying that's America's purpose for being is privilege and prosperity for white people. Then they'll turn around and say that you as black people, you're not good Americans. Well, you just said that America's for white people. You can't be both unless, folks, both of those things, I can't accept both of those things unless I accept being your servant, unless I accept being your subordinate. Now, if I accepted that, well, then what you're saying, we can reconcile what you said if I accept that. Yeah, if I did, which I won't, but if I did, well, then I guess that would make sense. You have this expectation that you are going to be white and privileged, and I'm just going to be happy to see you privileged. And okay, well, the only way a cotton picking person would sit up here and accept that is if I accept being your servant, if I accept being your dog. And this comes back to the white supremacist ideology here, folks. In their minds, well, of course, what's wrong with that? People, remember, they used to say that any person who wanted to get out of slavery, there was something wrong with them. I'm sorry, any black person who resisted slavery, there was something mentally wrong with him. Wait a minute, I thought we weren't people in the first place. How can there be anything mentally wrong? Remember? All right, some of the smart folk know drapetomania. Yeah, there's something wrong with you. You're mentally imbalanced. There's something wrong with you psychologically that you don't accept it. So when you all say these folk talk crazy, they talk as if they expect us to like them dominating and lording over us. People, I just showed it to you from the Athenians. For these folks, this is the natural order. Why in the hell is it that you Negroes don't just roll with the natural order? You look as silly as a dog attempting to pilot a jet plane. It's insanity. This is your natural place, and you keep trying to do unnatural things. That we're not the ones stupid for insisting that you accept your servitude. You're the silly one talking about you shouldn't be in servitude. This is the natural order. Whether you believe in God or whether you believe in evolution, whether you believe that God made you this way or whether you believe that evolution springboarded us ahead of you, that's it. And now I went through that long explanation for you all to make it clear to you that this is a socio-political ideology. And they're too cowardly and afraid to say it publicly. But I told you all this years and years and years ago that you're not going to be able to perpetuate white supremacy if you keep whispering. It keeps getting intellectually defeated in too many places, politically defeated in too many places. And you can't keep promoting a system that's obviously failing. So you're going to have to, if you're going to proselytize the coming generations, you're going to have to say out loud and straight up exactly what it is you're expecting them to promote. When you say that they're conservative, you're going to have to spell it out for them exactly what it is that you expect them to conserve. When Vivek Ramaswamy went to Turning Point, they sat there and told him what it was they were there to conserve. And that's the reason that they needed the Charlie Kirks and the Nick Fuenteses and the Tim Pools and the Megyn Kellys to say the white supremacy straight out, because you're confusing the next generation. The next generation, we're debunking white supremacy left and right. The next generation's got to be told exactly what the deal really is. They have to be told straight out with no chaser what the deal really is. And they're going to question you and question the validity of it when you tell them that. So now you have to come up with a pseudo-intellectual explanation. You're going to have to give them some cockamamie explanation that sounds like it was thought out, even if it's complete and total bastardization of history and garbage. Never mind that. Just give them something. There's only one reality that they have to accept and understand, that they are white. Now that you don't have to argue with them over. You can both agree that they are white. Once you've done that right there, that's all you have to do. Or at least that's the only thing you have to prove, is that they're white. After that, the explanation you give them for what they do, well, we can quibble over that later. You see, it doesn't require a deity after that. Remember the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. It's a poem that I've memorized. The poem If by Rudyard Kipling, by the way, anybody who knows about Rudyard Kipling knows, colonialism, yeah. See, they used to love bringing up Rudyard Kipling. Now, all we had to do is start looking into these writers from the early 20th century, all these folk they brought out there. We started realizing things. J.R.R. Tolkien, Rudyard Kipling. We started asking questions about stuff, and then you start looking at the background. It's like, oh, okay. But at the end of Rudyard Kipling's poem, If, he says, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, then yours is the earth and everything that is in it. Didn't say anything about God. It said that if you can outwork, outthink, outendure other people, yours is the earth and everything that is in it. No wonder they thought, and by the way, put this damn chain around this nigga's neck over here. He's yours too. Everything in the earth is yours, including these folk over here. People, that's the goal. So what's the hook? The hook is you're white and you're privileged. And if you are a white person struggling, the problem isn't that you aren't working hard enough, or you're not doing enough, or that you squandered your whiteness. That's not the problem. The problem is these Negroes over here are getting too much. So if you are white and you have any issue at all, then the problem is these Negroes. The problem is DEI. The problem is BLM. All of these are code words for black. If you are not experiencing your privilege, the problem is the black folk over here. And all you really need to do is double down on whiteness. Well, that's an especially poisonous thing to be selling right now, because you see, the baby boomer generation looted all the wealth. They squandered all the wealth. And they've left their children and grandchildren with nothing, because you see, that thing that we just covered here, well, you see, they don't like to talk about this because, ruling over your own children, well, that goes back to the very beginning of Western civilization and European practices. Your children are property. Your daughters, especially, your daughters are property. Your women are property. The next generation is property. So you see, they are eligible to be sold out. And if you can have power over them, then so be it. So you see, they do have an issue, but the issue's not with us. Never been with us. but they need something they can unify around. Because remember, they don't believe in decency. They don't believe in decency or honor or justice. So when we introduce them to the concept of justice and injustice, the problem is that they can't really use that one because their core code of conduct says, no, honor and justice and decency are delusions. You're delusional or you're just weak because you think about honor and justice. So you see, they need honor and justice now, but they can't rely on it because they've refuted the validity of honor and justice. So now they got to try something else. So they can't they can't unite around the concept of honor and justice to push back against these people who have exploited them. So they're just relying on the only thing they can agree on, white supremacy. Now they want the young to retreat and rely on white supremacy. Do that. Never mind the fact that that won't get you where you're trying to go. They're feeding this to the young because they don't have anything else to give them. They don't want to tell them the actual truth because they don't want to suffer what the consequence of the truth is. So they don't want to do that. So instead, they're trying to convince the young folk to be more like them. And I'm just telling you all now, that's not going to work. Hey, Jake the Snake Tapper, what you said, that's not what's going to happen. Gen Z, Gen Alpha, what's going to happen to them is they are going to look and they are going to see an America in decline. They are going to see houses they can't buy because the old folk, not just the old niggas, but the old folk everywhere, they want to get rid of property taxes so that the wealth gets all held in their hands. Your children in Gen Alpha, you understand that you're taking all that from them because all of this will come at their expense. And then you'll have big conglomerations like BlackRock come in and buy up all these houses after their mothers and fathers and grandfathers die. And they'll go their whole lives owning nothing and being told to be happy. Spoiler alert, they won't be. So they'll spend whatever meager earnings they get on, quote, experiences. Yeah, they have to buy experiences because they can't afford to buy the tangibles. Instagram gives them a nonstop fire hose of success porn, of a bunch of things they can see but could never hope to actually touch. You're going to see a generation, and I called this years and years ago, but I'm telling you all about this now. Gen X and Gen Alpha is like the millennials today. They're being encouraged to sell each other out. This is a generation that sets up whole websites to do stock market rug pulls on each other. They're not doing it on the baby boomers. They already got their wealth in the bank and their 401ks. They're not really doing it to Gen X because we're hip to the game and putting our money elsewhere. They can only take advantage of their unassuming peers. And they all go into it because they don't see another way to do it. So they all hope that they can pull the rug on everybody else. They set up rug pulls, hoping they can pull the rug on everybody else of their generation. You got the poor kids now targeting and victimizing the other poor kids. And when they come to you and demand justice, you're going to tell them the niggers took it from you. You're going to tell them that. While we have nothing. But you'll tell them, look, you're white. We would never do that to you. You're white. The real problem is the niggers got in our way. If we could just deal with them, this wouldn't keep happening to you. But the young people are not going to be, quote, more conservative. They're going to be more needy, more desperate. And they will not trust the Jake Tappers and or they're not going to trust them or the Ben Shapiro's or the Nick Fuentes's, to be totally honest. They're not going to trust them because they don't actually have answers. And at some point, your propaganda is going to give way to physics. Your conservative ideals ain't going to put food on the table, food in bellies and clothes on backs. It's not going to do that. You're selling them a con job, and at some point, you're either going to have to produce or they stop listening. So what they're trying to do is indoctrinate them early. They're trying to tell them the only problem is you don't go to church. The only problem is you don't go to church or you don't believe enough. They're trying to tell them that early. That the problem isn't that we stole all the wealth. The problem is y'all don't understand you're not going to church enough. That's why Charlie Kirk was very, very big about preaching church to them. Even though, according to Candace Owens, his religiosity was very fluid. However, that $100 million a year he was getting, he was pretty solid about that. Pretty solid about that. So they hope that the young people of today, and they're talking about the young whites, and they're hoping there's a coon class. And let me tell you, to all the white supremacists out there hoping that you're going to cultivate a coon class, like I say, you're not just desperate, you're dumb. You're desperate and dumb. It doesn't work that way. You can handpick coons here and there, but understand something. If you don't break bread, cooning ain't going to last very long. So the problem is y'all don't have pockets deep enough, or at least you're not generous enough to reward the coons at the magnitude that you need to cultivate a coon class. See, where you screwed up at was you paid Candace Owens. You paid Candace Owens. You paid Officer Tatum. Y'all paid Coleman Cruz. Y'all give them rewards. They get financial rewards for doing that. But see, the problem is you handpick people. You got to spread that around if you want it to catch on. See, the reason why everyone can believe in white supremacy is because that's been spread around. What? Nobody questions white supremacy because everybody gets a taste. Everybody gets a touch. That check shows up. You don't have to convince anybody of that. You can see it and it's spread to everybody. But this work hard under the system here and kiss enough white ass and you can make it, okay, anybody seeing that? Nobody gets enough of that. And even for those who do, the reward that you get is not proportional to the amount of ass you kiss. You're doing $1 million of ass kissing and getting $20,000. They're out here doing $1 million of ass kissing and getting $20,000. I mean, working their asses off. And that's all they can get. So you're not going to convince the masses that cooning is a viable lifestyle when it is so nakedly obvious that you're paying folks and only a select few can get any benefits for doing so. So, that's not going to work. So you're never going to have this battalion of coons who are going to convince the ignorant, dumb masses of Negroids that the only problem with them is that they're not trying hard enough. See, you can't get us on that one. So they're targeting their children and hoping that they can make them the new buffer class to believe it. But you're not going to make that one fly. It's not going to work. But they're trying. Now, I told you the next generation is going to be in such dire straits. They're going to be so economically strapped that they're going to be less concerned about social issues to an extent. They'll be much more concerned about economic issues, but the economic also bleeds into the social. Two people in a home make a lot more sense economically working together than one person does. Okay, well, when you come into the trans thing, it's like, okay, that's cutting into their pockets. So keep on wishing, but their situation is going to be too dire for them to sit up here and pretend that we can ignore the economic. They're going to be solely focused on the economic because they're going to be the first true generation who can't afford anything. Houses will be $500,000. Cars are going to be $60,000. Right now, houses cost about $400,000 to $430,000. By the time the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha come of age, houses will be a median price of $500,000. And cars today, the average price is $50,000. It'll be $60,000 by the time they come of age. You think they're going to be, and when they see that conservatism doesn't work, what they're going to say is capitalism has failed. Jake doesn't want to accept that. He doesn't want to accept that their children will come to the conclusion that capitalism has failed. See, capitalism benefits Jake, and he loves that, but your kids and grandkids are going to be far more skeptical about capitalism than you are. And when you start beating that conservatism drum, they're going to be like, you know what? This just sounds like more of that capitalism bunk that you're trying to sell us. That's what I'm predicting they're going to do because it's too obvious. It's too obvious. And that scares a lot of people there, especially those who've been eating good for the last 60, 70 years. And that scares them. But then again, you might disagree. Therefore, we're going to go ahead and open up the Zoom here for you. And you all can give us a call tonight. Are the young becoming more racist? Are the young going to be more racist than the generation today? Are they going to be more racist than the generation today? There's some folks out there in white society who are predicting it, probably hoping for it. But I want to find out from all of you what you think. So by all means, the link to the Zoom has been pinned at the top of the chat room. You are more than welcome to go ahead and give us a call up. Click the link, sit back, smile, and dial. And we'll be glad to go ahead and have you. You can weigh in on this for yourselves. If you are so inclined, you can weigh in for yourselves. In the meantime here, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Shall I hear the code LEADS? The code LEADS here in the chat room. Thank you very much for your support, brother. We appreciate that. To Mr. Waits, to Keenan, to Charlotte, my brother, Mr. Richburg, thank you very much for your support here tonight as well. We appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back here, we will take your phone calls, your calls here on Zoom and more. This is the Black Channel.
Be the teacher, knowledge on the block. Got the kids learning, minds open like a lock. Books and skills from the east to the west. Bringing education, yeah, we're simply the best. Classes on fire, brains burning with desire. Innovation driving like a tire through the mire. Math, science, history, we got the whole range. Kids hitting new heights, teachers making a change. Used to be the teacher, stacking up the grades. Future bright shining, no need for no shades. Got the youth thriving, moving up the ladder. Smart and sharp, brains growing fatter. Lessons so lit, yeah, they stay in a blaze. Every mind sharp like a sword in the haze. Mr. B in the house breaking knowledge chains. Education kingpin, we repping the gains. Mr. B the teacher.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening. The link to the Zoom is now available here. We are talking about some recent stories I played here. There's one more thing I want to show you all. One more thing. I'd be remiss if I didn't do this. I would be remiss in my duties if I did not do this. So there's a video from Floyd Mayweather Jr. I'm not sure when this occurred exactly. If this is recent, that's very, very telling. I hadn't seen this before. But yeah, y'all, Floyd has a message that he would like to send, and I would like to let you all hear it.
And like I said before, I'm not with you guys 10%, 50%. I will always be the voice for the people in Israel. I will always stand behind the country of Israel, the one and only Floyd Money Mayweather in Israel. I will always be here for you guys when you guys don't have a voice.
All right. Well, I just wanted to go ahead and let you all know that Floyd Mayweather would like to let all of us know that he will always be a voice for the voiceless in Israel. Because there are no voiceless in, black society. There are no voiceless people in black society, y'all. So, yeah.
Nigga, what?
All right. So, he wanted to let you all know that for all the voiceless people of Israel, Money Mayweather did this for you. So he's here to let you know. All because black folk got such a voice, don't you know? Clearly it's that. So yeah, in case you all had not seen this, I just wanted to let you all know that, by the way, he is making sure that he. How big do you think the bag was? I'm just saying this. How much y'all think that cost? How much y'all think that took? I'll let you all speculate on how big of a bag that was. Yeah. All right. Okay, let me go ahead and jump over here on Zoom right quick. Let me see who we got. All right, we got Brother Elijah over here on Zoom. Brother Elijah, what's on your mind?
Hey, good evening, big brother Jason. Brother, excellent broadcast. You asked the question, are young people getting more racist? And I got an answer. Instead of saying they're getting more racist, I think this is just they're naturally wicked like that, big brother. Okay, from day one, since their inception into the world, them folks have always came with something strange and unfathomable that we just didn't know. We didn't know anything about, a certain lifestyle, about killing people. Okay, we didn't know about hating someone because they look different. These people, we didn't know certain things, doing certain things with animals. Okay, these folks have always been this way since what you said, since the days of the Caucasus Mountains and everything like that. They're at the point where they can't help it and everything like that. And then you made another point, big brother, about
Well, I mean, look, if you're building an empire built on barbarism and
Yes, sir.
debauchery and, you know, absolute animalistic behavior, well, you can't stop now.
right.
I mean, you got a couple thousand years of track record behind you. It's not like you can slam on the brakes now, even though that would be the smartest thing to do. It's not like you can slam on the brakes now.
Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then I wanted to also build on your point. I'm not going to be long-winded tonight, I promise. You also said about if these people would go back to the days of blaming black people for taking their jobs, okay, in a segment before the commercial. If they say an inkling of that, I believe one of our people should punch them in the fucking mouth. And I'm going to tell you why, big brother. Of all aspects of society, they have phased us out. They can't use that trope that they once said in the 1920s, 1930s, and everything like that. They flooded us with too many non-white immigrants for that. All right, for that game, if they want to play.
Right. But here's the issue: is
Yes, sir.
mathematics. Everybody can't be a millionaire, so that one's frozen out. Even though
Right.
you've made it where basically you got to be a millionaire to live in most of your major cities in America.
Right.
So, but what it is misdirection. You see, the things you're talking about would take years to rectify.
Right.
Taking a look at some black folk over there and saying that they get the reason you ain't got it is because they're getting too much. Well, remember that plays into something else because it plays into the intangible. Aren't you proud to be white? Well, yeah, but I mean, white's supposed to come with privileges. Oh, we
Yes,
stole
sir.
all your privileges and we consolidated the wealth in the few families, so ain't no privilege for you. But you are still higher and more privileged than the highest Negro.
Right.
So we're not giving you the tangibles you're supposed to be getting. Instead, we're going to give you symbolic intangibles. Why, you can feel good. And brother, it's been working at least since the Civil War.
Yes, sir.
That one's tried and true and been working. So that gets rinsed and repeated all the time. I mean,
Yes, sir.
even today, I mean, take a look at the NBA. Shut up and dribble. Okay. White folk go to the NBA to yell at Negroes. Think about that
Yes,
for a few
sir.
moments. So that's a very easy one to gin up, very, very easy to crank up and use. That one's all purpose. They can use that anytime. This is not about math. This is not about rationality. Folks, I guess I got to start channeling my inner Neely Fuller. Folks, if you don't understand white supremacy and how it works, everything else will just confuse you. People, Neely Fuller told you they speak in code. So even when you say the blacks took our jobs or the blacks are getting too much, they're still not going to tell you exactly what that means.
Yes, sir.
You're going off of the literal verbiage and not the actual underlying understanding. They understand that you're hooked on the literal verbiage, but they have an understanding of what those words actually mean. And the unspoken agreement in white society is that you do not ultimately attempt to overthrow the system. I've been teaching you all this going on 2 decades. So what you're saying would involve that. No. From the poorest to the richest, they are not fighting to dismantle the unjust system of white supremacy. They only fight to advance their own position within it.
Right.
We are the enemy because we seek to dismantle that system. Our way of, quote, fixing it is to dismantle it.
Yes.
Okay, but they're like, wait. If I let you dismantle this, there's no more white privilege. Well, yes, that's the solution. White supremacy is not the cure, it's the disease. Wait, hold on. No, I'm white. No, privilege is the cure. Even if I just have privilege over you.
Yes,
as long
sir.
as I have somebody to look down at, whiteness is paying off for me.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
that's the token, that's the consolation prize they're being given. And what you're seeing is throughout history is there's a sizable number of the population that will take their consolation prize. So do not deceive yourself into thinking that that will get old. No, that will not get old. Not at all. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We appreciate that. Let me see if I can get Superpower Media up here on Zoom for me right quick. Superpower Media. Let me go ahead and get them up here on Zoom for me right quick. All right, Superpower, what's on your mind?
Jason, you've been cooking all weekend, man, from the business channel to this channel, man. You've been cooking, man. But I want to let people know that, with the white supremacists, like with Charlie Kirk, he always preached about black people this and black people that and the Christianity this. When they would always say Christianity, man, my red flag go up, because I was taught by my parents that whenever they say they're Christian, that means that's the KKK. That was something that meant what it didn't mean what we meant about it as black. If you was a black Christian, it was always when they said that, man.
I mean, you can shut them down very. You can get the hard matter. You can get at the hard matter real quickly and just ask them, who are the black Christians you admire? You can end the conversation real quick. Okay, great. Christian. Who are the black Christians that you revere and admire? Go ahead and give us a few of them right quick. And that's all you gotta do is just sit and be quiet and wait. That one will debunk itself. This is not about a religion. This is about a crusade. It's not about a religion. It's about a crusade.
Yeah.
The Crusades, the religion was the unifying force. That's the whole thing that we've been dealing with this whole time. White supremacy has jumped from one unifying catalyst to another. We'll unite each other based on race. We'll unite each other based on hatred of these people who ain't in the race. We'll unite each other based on the religion. Over time, they've had to change we'll unite each other in the pursuit of gold in the new world. And then you saw everything broke down along racial lines. So they've had to pivot from one unifying catalyst to another over the millennia. This is what black folk need to realize. It doesn't just stay at race. It comes back to race, but that doesn't always work. So sometimes you need something else. And if you can combine things, have layers of unifying catalysts, oh man, now you got it. So if we are white and Christian and wealthy, well, what do you know? Oh, we're white and Christian and educated.
Yeah.
We are white and Christian and part of the media. So these are layers of unifying catalysts now. Any one of those things individually would unify you. If I can get several together, oh man, I got you locked up, man. I got a Gordian knot. And ideally, that's what you want to have if you can construct it.
Well, that's why they wanted us black people to always be the punching bag. Every time we look up, we've been punched down on. Like when they speak of Chicago, you would think Chicago is the most dangerous place on the planet, the way they speak of Chicago, but we know that they're the most dangerous. School shootings, little Timmy. You don't want little Timmy after your ass. You don't want they come home killing their families and everything else, but it's just not broadcast like Chicago is broadcast. You know what I mean? And so we already know what the deal is, and their culture. Their culture is the most dangerous culture to be around. I mean, we know as a black person not to go hunting with white folks. You know better than that. If you stay in the South, if they ever ask you to go hunt, you better not go. We knew that. Your parents tell you that. Sundown towns. My parents taught me about if you don't need to get gas, you're traveling through a small town, don't stop. So we already know how these people is, and they can lie to everybody else all they want, but that's the culture of evil. That's the culture of death and destruction. When the Bible spoke of it, they come to kill, steal, and destroy. He was talking about white people. He wasn't talking about the devil. I'd rather deal with the devil than deal with white people. Straight up. Be one, Jason.
Thank you for giving us a call tonight. So remember, for the young generation coming up, they're already prepping to sell them out, and they need to be given a consolation prize. So they're going to give them political ideology, progressivism, conservatism, and they're going to be faced with the same questions we've been saying the whole time. What is it about this you want to conserve? Exactly, what is it about your condition that you're trying to conserve, man? Let's go ahead and jump back over here on Zoom again. Let me see if we can get rolling up here on Zoom. Not the one y'all are thinking of here. We'll see if we can get Roland up on Zoom. Okay, Roland, what's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, brother Jason? Again, as you know, just to pair it with the other callers have said, great broadcast all weekend. The main thing I just wanted to say, Jason, was as Black people, we got to stop trying to appeal to these white supremacist morality, because it's indoctrinated in them at an early age to not look at the morality of things, to look at dominance from an early age. And like a brother Fuller said, they understand race and the sense of racism at an early age. I think as Brother Fuller said it, but by the age of 12, understand how racism works and their place in the hierarchy of race. So I mean, it's just absurd.
Okay, I think he's gonna make some good points here. Let me give him a moment to see if he can find another part of the apartment to be standing in, because you're digitizing for whatever reason. So let me go ahead and see if I'm going to keep you on the line here. Just try to move somewhere else because you're digitizing a lot, and I think you got something good to say, because he's already said one thing good. Black folk, I did not start the Black channel. I didn't do this so that I could educate the dominant society. I didn't do this so that we can have a dialogue with the dominant society in order to educate them and inform. They already know. Whites, as Neely Fuller taught us, white supremacy could not run as uniformly as it does if everybody within the white society was not briefed on how to practice it. It couldn't be this uniform. Everywhere you go around the world, it runs so uniform. Okay, then obviously you're being taught how to do this. It's not spontaneous. You've been educated. You're being educated worldwide on how to practice white supremacy. You are all too uniform in your practice of it. So therefore, you're being taught. Okay, so I don't have to educate you on white supremacy. You already know what it is and what you're doing. You already know what it is. So I don't have to educate you, talk to you, debate. I don't do that. I do this for Black people. I do what I'm doing here for Black folk. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Neely Fuller, we got to do this for Black folk because you're a Black person in a system of white supremacy, and you've been given a certain set of tools, most of them inadequate. And what you really fall into is that you see so many similarities. You start telling yourself, well, if I can just explain it to them, if I can just get them to understand. Now they got you on the treadmill because they got you thinking, well, racism is just ignorance. Racism, they're not racist. They're just ignorant. They're not racist. They're just ignorant. So they got you on a treadmill. If I can just educate them about the error of their ways, if I can just unravel this and get them to see my white brother, if I can get you to see the long arc of history of white supremacy and how it's developed, we start doing that. I set up the Black channel so that we can have these conversations with each other, because you see, that's the only place we need to have understanding. The dominant society already understands, dude. They already get it. You're not enlightening them. You're not enlightening them. You're not educating them. You're not elevating their understanding. You're not filling in the gaps. You think if you just talk to them long enough and read enough books and read enough white supremacists, you can decipher this and deconstruct white supremacy for them. Dude, they already know. I have these conversations with all of you so that you are not confused. And now that you're not confused, guess what you won't be doing? You will not be wasting time attempting to decipher white supremacy for somebody who already damn well gets it. It is not a misunderstanding. White supremacy is not a misunderstanding. It's a religion, not a misunderstanding. Well, they don't quite get it. You want things to change? Get your head straight. Get your head right. That's the missing link. That's the missing piece. That's the gap that needs to be filled in for you, which is why we are here. I'm here to talk to all of you so that when you encounter them, now you know what to realistically expect and what to not even fathom considering you expect. Because Black people spend a whole lot of time thinking, well, it's just a little misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding. Let me go back and see if I can try Roland here again. Let's hope his signal's gotten a little bit better for him, because I'm pretty sure he's got something good here to say. He was saying pretty good so far. All right, Roland, let's go ahead and try that again, brother.
My apologies, brother Jason. No, like I was saying, I just get very frustrated when I watch other Black people try to appeal to the morality of these white supremacists. It's almost like they don't understand that it's not about morality. It's about dominance. It's about what they can take from you. It's about how they can manipulate you. It's never been about that. It's just like when those early Methodist preachers back in the days of slavery would try to go and try to decipher the Bible and try to spew it back to the white supremacists, when they themselves were using the Bible as a tool of mental oppression against the slaves by omitting certain truths from the Bible that they claim to delve into and study. I mean, it's just mind-boggling to me. I mean, I don't know what your take on that would be. This over appeal to the morality of white supremacists. I don't know. Well,
it's because most Black people are confused, because when we encounter white supremacy, it practically never says the problem is because you're Black. Remember Lee Atwater, when he said they made it abstract. After the 1960s, you couldn't say niggers anymore. So how do you articulate what the problem is if you can't say the problem is really the niggers? Well, you start saying that the problem is desegregation, forced busing. You start saying integration. Well, you got to back off of that. Now you start, the problem is education, tax reform, global trade. Do you realize they got you talking about education, tax reform, and global trade? Now they got you talking about conservatism and progressivism. Do you see how far from nigger we've come? You see how far away from that we are? No wonder you're confused. You're thinking the problem is that, well, this CRT and DEI, this is all part of this progressive agenda, and it's messing up people's heads, and that immediately gets you into fighting CRT and DEI. I'm not saying fighting against it. I'm saying to try to decipher them. No. See, there's a reason why these things exist. Now they got you doing that, you see, because they never just came out and said what it was. So you're confused and thinking, or like with Charlie Kirk, the problem is that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. So now you're trying to reconcile, you as a Black Christian are trying to reconcile with the white Christians. By the way, you white Christians keep bringing racism with you. And he keeps saying, ain't no racism about it. Meanwhile, he's telling you that he doesn't want a Black pilot on the plane. When in reality, if you people understand how hard it is to get through flight school, there are no unqualified pilots on a plane. You can't work for a major airline to be unqualified. Flying an airplane is not like flying a damn go-kart. You couldn't pull away from the damn terminal if you don't know what the hell you're doing. Go take a look at the cockpit of a 737, y'all. Do you see all those buttons and switches? If you don't know what you're doing, that plane isn't going to leave the terminal. And Charlie Kirk got you thinking that flying a 737 is like flying a go-kart. Ooh, gosh, golly me. Who put all these switches up in his? Ooh, I don't know what I was doing. I was in class and everything. And I don't know. I can't fly no plane. I just know how to twerk. As if that's the way as if you get a commercial pilot's license by twerking. Get the hell. So I'm just saying, that's your good white nationalist Christian there. So that's what I'm saying. Do you see how far you've gotten there? And Charlie was sitting right next to you trying to convince you the whole time that it's not about race. It's not about race. It's not about race. Steven Crowder, they'll sit there the whole time trying to tell you it's not about race, and then turn right back around and say something racist. And what I'm saying is that I want you all to understand, hey, that swerve you just saw, that wasn't a fluke, man. We don't need to talk to them for the 50,000th time. See, the problem you're articulating, brother, is that as Black folk, and you know this very well, we've had a savior complex.
Yes.
We've had a savior complex, and if we can just save the white supremacist, if we can just get his head straight for him, we can redeem him. You and me, oh man, damn redeeming his head. Leave his ass right where he is. That's where you and me at. A bunch of Black folk are looking for that pat on the head, even if it's from a white supremacist. You and me are not burdened by the same disease, so therefore we ain't really spinning our wheels to do that. But a lot of Black folk, that's really what they're on. And I can say that they mean well, okay, but that don't win wars, meaning well. So, yeah, you got to get off the nonsense. White supremacists know what they're doing. They know what they're about. They're not misunderstanding. They're not confused. They're not mistaken. They know what they're doing. And we talk to each other so that we all get on the same page. Hey, y'all, we don't have to decipher anything. When you encounter white supremacy, you identify it, you fight it when you can, but you don't sit here and deconstruct it and decipher it for them. They already got it. If he's practicing white supremacy, he knows why he's doing it. But what confuses you is that they're not saying it's white supremacy. They're telling you it's something else. Well, you're not conservative. So then we have to make sure that you're not confused that when he throws that card, well, Jason, I mean, his problem with me isn't because I'm black. It's because he's conservative, and I'm not really conservative like that. Dude, no.
Liberals can be the same way.
Well,
I don't understand.
Well, beyond that, though, I mean, yes, you're right. Liberals can be the same way. They're all twin wings on the bird of white supremacy. But his problem with you isn't that you're not, quote, conservative. Because once we start questioning him about what conservative is, it's white. So there's a real problem about it. Most of these people don't know how to drill down on these things. And I don't know if we have the ability to educate them to the extent they need to. They have to go back and listen to us for years and years.
And there's enough time to educate.
Yeah, so I just need you to understand, hey, if somebody's practicing white supremacy, he's not confused. He's not confused. He's not mistaken. And you trying to correct him or untangle this for him, that's not going to work. Because he's not confused. You are. You're the one confused. You think this is about conservative and liberal and left wing and right wing and Democrat and Republican and religious and Christian and not Christian. This is not about any of that. So the person who needs to get straightened out is the black person who tries to straighten the white folk out. So no, we don't need to talk to the white guy. We need to talk to you because you are obviously confused about who you're talking to. I'll let you have the last word.
Yes, and one last thing I'd like to say, Brother Jason, is for all the black people that just love to say, "Oh yes, we're all brothers in Christ, brothers and sisters in Christ." Just remember what the most segregated hour of American time is, which is during church. And I thank you, Brother Jason, for letting me speak.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. I mean, look, the white kids show up for your favorite rapper. They show up for your favorite comedian. There's more white kids at a rap concert than black folk. White folk buy all the rap. White folk, there'll be more white folk at a Dave Chappelle concert than black people. So showing up for a black man has never been the issue. Once it's starting to church, all of a sudden, okay, we got the best talkers and silver-tongued wordsmiths in black society at the pulpit that mankind has ever witnessed. And yet, well, we found one place where charismatic, magnetic black men can't get no love. All right. Let me go ahead and jump back over here on Zoom again right quick here. Let me see if we can get Tyler up here on Zoom for me. All right, Tyler, what's on your mind? Unmute yourself, Tyler.
Yes, sir. Brother Jason, we are in the house again. Great topic tonight. White supremacy has two mottos, protect the position and defend the wealth. They are still at white supremacy. And because I have kids, Jason, they're still doing that thing they do with television programming. So we're watching one of the newer Power Ranger movies, right? And of course, the Black Ranger, he's blue now, doesn't matter. He dies in the movie. And that's something I learned about back in college in media studies, is they're always killing us off. And a lot of times as kids, we don't recognize how devastating and psychologically manipulative that is. So the black guy dies. He gets saved by Zordon, the white guy. When he gets his first, his range, the animal that they get, his is the only one that's going backwards. So he's shown as inept. He doesn't lead the big thing. He doesn't lead the parts of the animal coming together until he starts dancing, right? And he's not the leader. So white supremacy is not done. And it's just something that you keep harking on, and it's coming to it, they're carrying it through today. In terms, just real quick to tap into how they finance, right? So in order to finance white supremacy, you have to get the money from somewhere. One way that shows up on high school and college campuses, Jason, is the athletes are barred from making any money, even though they generate thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. Meanwhile, if you go to the math, the English, history department, they're actually budget negative. They're a drain on the system. And it's the same thing, but it's just it's in the tens of millions at the college level. You've got athletes that are generating tens of millions of dollars a season, they can't capture any of that value. But the predominantly white institution can capture that value and build up new buildings that they will not allow Black students into because they won't let them into the school. So in a way, we have to stop allowing ourselves to be our own worst enemy, because white supremacy has been doing that from the beginning. You mentioned something earlier about Frances Cress Welsing, right? The immortal elder. And she was really onto something. And that's something that I've been looking into, right? Because it really does come down to genetics. And if you look at genes as an asset, slavery was a springboard for our genes. It was a terrible springboard. It caused us to go through a lot of devastation, but it was an enormous springboard for our genes, because it wasn't just only the strong survive. It was only the great survive. No medical care, right? You're having to survive psychologically. You have to develop different strategies. Work-wise, you have to develop different strategies. So that was really a factory for all of these incredible survival strategies that you see us utilizing today, right? Our amazing culture. That was just this response to the worst imaginable crimes against humanity. You had also mentioned the Robert Greene, the 48 Laws of Power. Something else that I like to take a look at from time to time is Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations. His book just clearly lays out white supremacy for the next 500 years. And so they're going to need to come up with an updated version, find some new updates. It's AI, right? It's modern technology. It's the drones. It's the surveillance system. But they are always refreshing white supremacy.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying for almost 20 years, is that we've witnessed in our generation, this is the culmination of the last 500 years of white supremacy. We are here at the end result of the last 500 years. Whether it's Project for a New American Century, which was back in the 90s, for the slow bus kids, whether you just got aware of it with Project 2025. I'm like, okay, if you're talking about Project 2025, you obviously didn't know about Project for a New American Century. You obviously hadn't heard any of that. But if that's there, yeah, they're trying to figure out, okay, how do we hold it now? The last 500 years with the exploration of the world, every square inch of the world has been mapped now, so there's nothing unknown about the Earth's geography. We've conquered as much of that as we can. Now, how do we hold it? Adam Smith and, the rest of them gave you the blueprint on how to take it. But now in the 21st century context, especially in the global context, where the folk you've been suppressing have access to more ways of defying you, how do you hold it now? And that's what they're trying to figure out. Or at least they're trying to settle. They're now trying to settle on what will be the way to hold everything that Adam Smith and James Madison and them told us how to take it. How do we hold it now? And that's what they're debating over and trying to figure out. Absolutely. So when they seem so paranoid about, quote, losing it, yeah, it's because they're not really sure how you hold it now.
And when I see on the side of police cars, it says to protect and serve, and it's been a couple decades for me. Every time I see it, it just seems like protect white supremacist position and serve white supremacy, because I don't see a lot of protecting and I don't see a lot of serving going on. They are right now.
You don't need police where you have resources. Brother, you don't have police where you got resources. When everybody got resources, there's no thieving, there's no envy. I mean, we can start knocking out 10 commandments if you want to. If folk got resources, they're not envious of their neighbor. They're not scheming on them. They ain't trying to steal anything from him. There's no need to knock him over the head. You got the same thing he's got. You have to buy storage units to store your stuff. You got so much of it. So do you realize when you have resources, what you want to do is put distance between you and your neighbors? What? Folks, when you got resources, you ain't worried about seeing your neighbors. You're trying to get away from them. You want distance from them. It's like, all right, you cool. Let me build this wall right quick. Let me get some more acres. That's what happens when you have resources. So when they're talking about, we don't need police out there. Of course you don't. Everyone has resources. That would be silly. What are you going to do? Do a drive-by in your Aston Martin? What are you going to do? You're going to go rob an ATM or rob a liquor store in your Lamborghini? What are you going to do? So you're gonna step away from your $10 million annuity so you can go down the street and play dice? Really? What crime are you going to commit other than white collar crime? You're going to do that, but you're not. And by the way, I'm glad you took us down this road. No, I'm not straying, people. By the way, you know where you need police? You need police for the white collar crimes. Everybody wants to talk about crime. By the way, y'all do realize that most of the corporate crime in this country, nobody goes to jail for it. By most of it, I mean 99.99999%. Nobody goes to jail in America for committing a white collar crime. Nobody. If you're part of a Wall Street firm, nobody goes to jail for that. The ones that go, you can count them on one hand, simply because the fraud got into like the billions. But most of your Fortune 500 companies today have committed crimes. General Motors with the ignition scandal that killed people. Shout out Mary Barra.
Volkswagen.
Oh, Volkswagen, Dieselgate. But I'm talking about folk got killed. But yeah, we can bring Dieselgate into it. They said they indicted some folk, but they're not on trial yet. By the way, y'all can go look it up. They said they indicted them. They're not on trial yet. Not yet. International scandal. So it's only if it blows up and whatnot, but otherwise, look here. No, they just give them a fine. They give them a fine, and I forget the exact word they use for it, but it's a diversionary or whatever. But it's basically diversionary sentencing for corporations. It's basically that. So like if you're a low level person, okay, we're going to put you in drug rehab instead of putting you in jail. For the corporations, we're going to give you a fine instead of putting the CEO in jail. All of a sudden, corporations not run by people anymore. Now the corporation is just, I don't know, some AI that runs itself, apparently.
BP, Jason, didn't they mess up your whole fishing industry down there?
Man, look here. That is a crime on a global level, because they just talk about what they did off the coast of Louisiana. Y'all do understand that there are literally thousands of capped wells in the Gulf of Mexico. Trump calls it the Gulf of America. When he leaves office, it'll be back to Gulf of Mexico again. But there are thousands of capped wells in the Gulf of Mexico right now that are leaking. They're leaking. Because what these companies do is they have the wells and then they sell them to another company that sells them to another company. And then eventually the wells are capped off if you're lucky. And then the last company and whatnot closes up shop. So rather than them sealing the wells like they need to be with concrete and stuff, usually they just put a metal cap on it. And that's it. And there are thousands of these orphan wells out in the Gulf with no owner, or at least we know that the companies transferred the ownership so they wouldn't have to be charged. They wouldn't have to pay the expense. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about just the wells. I'm also talking about the oil rigs, people. What? The oil platforms. Don't believe me? Go take a boat ride out in the Gulf of Mexico. You'll find a number of oil rigs out there. They're just sitting there. They're not in use. They're sitting there. Oh, well, the ownership has been divested. Ownership's divested. Oh, well. We're not going to pay to tow that thing back. You know how much it costs us to tow it out there? We're not going to pay to tow that thing back in. Much less to tow it in and dismantle it? Oh, hell no. Leave it out there. But what's going to happen, you psycho CEOs? The U.S. government will have to pay for it eventually. Because we're going to transfer the ownership from one shell company to another shell company to another shell company. And when you get to the last one, that one will just close up shop. Oh, well, there's nobody to go after. So... and that's literally what they're going to be doing now. The taxpayers will pay for it. So the white men who run the oil companies, they'll get billions. And then, for the cost of it, the rest of you pay that. And so when we start talking about white privilege, we got to start talking about that. But when we talk about crimes, that one gets left off. You want to talk about people dying? You know how many people die because of oil refineries? Oil refineries, pollution, things like that. You know how many thousands of people die? You want to talk about that? And then you want to start talking to me about Chicago? This is a damn insult. That's an insult. Yeah. So just in the modern context, brothers, if you got a corporation, you can get away with murder Literally is what they do. That's legal. There's nothing illegal about it. You got a corporation, it's just legal. You do what you do. And they're going to back you on it.
No, absolutely, Jason. It's like, in order to make white supremacy work, because I'm really tapping into the intergenerational theme that you have going on. And I'm glad you brought back some of what you had talked about in your Friday broadcast, right? They're going to pay prominent Black people to mislead generations. And you identified someone who they overfinanced, who did not earn that financing, was put in a prominent position in order to mislead an incredibly large segment of the population. And we are now dealing with it in so many different ways, right? The whole idea is you have to radicalize the next generation. And white supremacy has mastered this over hundreds of years of doing this. And remember, like Nick Fuentes was saying earlier in the broadcast, white supremacy started civilizations ago, not even centuries ago, civilizations ago. They're saying the Romans were white supremacy. The Greeks were white supremacy. Now, forget the fact that the Greeks learned everything they got.
By the way, one more thing here about that. I'm so glad they made it easy for us. All I gotta do is just tell them now, hey, don't blame. When I say they're white supremacists, you can't blame me. Nick Fuentes said they were, not me.
Thank you. Absolutely. It's so this whole idea that white supremacy is just going to slowly die out. That is not how it's going to happen at all. And I'm hoping that your broadcasts and the other paragons of Black empowerment are making it clear. We're dealing with the kids of yesterday. That's Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is the kid of yesterday who we said, no, they're going to overcome white supremacy. They won't fall into the same trap, only to become unapologetic leaders of the neo-white supremacist movement. If you look at history, Nick Fuentes is just the latest iteration of something that has always been coming. George Wallace, that's another iteration. And they have the soft versions, right? Just like they had, I think it was David Duke. They have the softer white supremacists. They've got the more hardcore white supremacists. They've got the liberal white supremacists. They've got the democratic white supremacists. They've got white supremacists of every flavor and taste you can imagine, because for them, this is survival. A lot of times they focus on the fact that slavery is over. Listen, every theft eventually ends. When you go to rob a bank, you don't stay in the bank. You rob the bank and then you leave with the wealth, and then you go and manage and you launder that wealth, right? Slavery was going to end regardless. There's a period of stealing and taking, then there's a period of management and growth. I don't know why we keep trying to give Abe Lincoln, even though we freed ourselves, and there's so much proof of that. They keep trying to say, well, white person freed you. Well, look at all the main thing is the white people that died in the Civil War. Oh my God. Do you know how much betrayal happened during and after the Civil War by these white lieutenants for the Union? Do you know how much they stabbed us in the back? Do you know them leaving us in the South after we gave blood? We're not talking
That's the
about
real issue. As Black folk, the conversations that we get into, I want us to not get confused that these folks don't understand, and that if we only gave them enough time and enough talking, we get them straightened out. Whether it's American history, European history, Greek history, Mediterranean history, they know exactly what they understand the assignment. Yes. You could not have this uniformity and potency of effect if they didn't. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight, brother. We appreciate that. Let me see if we can get Flo for Cuz up here on Zoom for me right quick. All right, Flo for Cuz, what's on your mind? Unmute yourself, sir. Yes, sir, you are on. He's trying to figure out how to maneuver this newfangled technology. There you go. All right, brother, what's on your mind?
Listen, thank you so much, Brother Jason. I appreciate you for all that you do. I just want to say you are an inspiration and a testament to the greatness of the new Black media. And, this conversation is very fitting. Today, I was doing a lot of, thinking and kind of dwelling over certain things. I watched a video of a young group of kids doing pranks, and they took a bicycle, broke it in half, and taped it together and left it someplace for people to come and steal it. Laughed about how they fell off of it and said, hey, you shouldn't have been trying to steal the bike. One guy probably broke his leg. It's a silly video, but then this kind of started getting me to think like, okay, somebody in the comments said, what's the legalities of this? And I'm like, yeah, well, what if somebody does get hurt? Are they liable? And all this kind of stuff. So it's like, what are we really talking about? It's the scaling up of, and I wrote this just now, it said something about the manners to murder of white supremacy. It starts with like, oh, use the salad fork and, wear this at the ball or whatever it is. It's a certain cultural dynamic that's like, like you were saying in the beginning, it was unspoken and it won't progress unless it's spoken out loud. So now,
well, I've been saying this for the longest time now, and the good news, the good part about them being so blatant to resort to a Nick Fuentes or his ilk, the Nick Fuentes of the Tim Pools, all these guys are equal demons. It just confirms what I said the whole time. I've been telling you all for years and years, and now they're just showing you that when I said what you were just talking about right there is that if you're white, you should be able to do anything you want to do. And the only problem would be if somebody attempts to impede that. Well, that's what they're arguing for. Now they're just coming out and saying the quiet part out loud.
Yes.
But, it's like, and if they do it, the bottom line is if they do it, it's all right. If they do it, it's legal. So when you ask about what's the legality of that, he's white. It's legal. If he does it to you, it's legal.
And it goes on to the conversation of the tethers and, sympathizers, I guess you would, because now, I guess somebody would come from Caribbean or something like that. They would do their thing. Like you were saying on a few weeks ago, they'd come and work hard and, all the parents would tell them, stay away from those black kids because they're not going to do nothing for you. And, oh, look how we came to this country and did this and that. And, then they don't see the systematic dynamics of years, the move bombings, the flooded towns, sundown towns, etc. I can go on, but it's like a progression. And I wanted to juxtapose the fact that, watching things like America's Funniest Home Videos desensitizes us to like, people getting hurt and laughing at, the misfortune of others. And it snowballs into Bad Girls Club, and then it turns into ICE at your neighbor's front door, and all you can do is laugh about it because they're brown or they're not like you or whatever it might be. You see what I'm saying? So that whole juxtaposition of saying, oh, they should a crescendo or an escalation of we don't like criminals, so these people are the immigrants are criminals, so we don't like them. Oh, the black people might be poor and the poor might be criminals, so we don't like them. It's that escalation, it's that progression, and it's only a one-way street, unless you got a little compassion and sympathy.
Well, like I say, they have their rules for it, and the whole thing is normalizing a bunch of stuff that before now they didn't dare to say. That's the whole point right now. Up until now, it was understood. It just wasn't normalized. It was stated by us out loud, but they were saying it behind the. We knew what they actually meant, and we've been saying that. Up until now, they weren't required to actually come out and say it. So this actually becomes a double-edged sword. You see, you're handicapped by the fact that now you have to come out and say it because clearly the society's gotten out of control. But the more you openly say it, the more you're putting every damn body on alert. So now that you have to say it directly and you can't lie about it anymore, the whole reason you had to lie about white supremacy and use abstract terms is so you didn't get everybody on alert and galvanized. Now you got them on alert and galvanized, that's going to be an issue. Now, brother, I will tell you one thing. ICE right now, I'm not going to say they're doing God's work, but they are certainly freeing up the freeway, so I can appreciate that. I sure do appreciate being able to get around New York and LA and Atlanta without quite so much going on. So I will say I appreciate that. So if they can apply for their driver's license back in Mexico, if they can apply for it from Mexico, then we'll see how it goes. I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, checks and balances from ID at the club, to things like, driver's licenses, just like what you're talking about. It's just a matter of checks and balances to make sure that, people are doing right by each other so that supposedly we're not taking more than what we deserve, and white supremacy just kind of spiraled that out of control. Like you said, it's no longer about justice, it's about getting ahead. So thanks so much for having me, Jason. And man, thank you everyone for just giving your support to this wonderful process. And listen, be one.
Be one. Thank you very much for calling tonight. I want to tell you all something. I want to say something to y'all. Your so-called conservatives, you all are not going to believe this. I'm just going to tell you all right now. You want to hear Negro Damas do his thing. Your so-called conservatives, in the next 20 years, they're going to be some of the biggest proponents of an open border.
Nigga, what?
Nigga, what?
Listen to me for a moment. You see, as the American government increases its surveillance state, as the American government becomes more tyrannical and becomes more dictatorial, you're going to see more white folk demanding to leave. The white folk who have their money and have their wealth, or the white folk who got a good job, you're going to start seeing more of them demand to leave. But you see, a border that is locked down by citizenship, a border that is locked down by citizenship is a very difficult one to get out of. So you see, as the government begins to increase its dictatorial hold, you're going to see more white folk demanding that the American border become a more free place so they can leave. You see, you've been conditioned to only think of the border as a place folks want to come in through. And I'm just letting you know that, by the way, you're going to see a lot of these folk today who are just hardcore seal the border people. Mark my words. These will be folks who are going to become real liberal about that border. You're going to hear their tune start to soften, particularly in the area of leaving, that it shouldn't require so many legalities. Up to and including, why do you have to have a passport? If you don't have a warrant for your arrest, why you need a passport? Oh, y'all don't want to know? Please remember, there were a bunch of doofuses, by the way, never could get any of them to call back in. Never could get any of them to call back in. Folks, you used to be able to go to Mexico without a passport up until like the last decade. Had some dummies thought that was real old. Nope. You used to be able to go back and forth here up until very recent history. It's only been about the last decade or so that you had to have a passport. Before then, no. White folk like that. The state of Minnesota didn't require citizenship. So that was what they liked. I keep reminding you of their old songs. Out in the West Texas town of El Paso, I fell in love with a Mexican girl. One of y'all's favorite songs. All of y'all love this song, Christopher Cross, Ride Like the Wind. Oh, y'all, anybody who's a Michael McDonald fan, if you know Michael McDonald, you know Christopher Cross. Ride Like the Wind. And what's the chorus of Ride Like the Wind? 'Cause I got such a long way to go to make it to the border of Mexico. There's a bunch of songs like that. It's not accidental. Let's go ahead and see if we can get Orion up here on Zoom for me here right quick. All right, Orion, what's on your mind?
Right.
You're on, Orion. Orion, you are on. I see you and hear you, sir. Okay. Can somebody text Orion's niece or granddaughter to help him with this phone? Orion, you are killing my program, brother. Okay. Our brother Orion is confused with this newfangled technology. This newfangled technology has him confused and flummoxed. He is unsure or unaware of how to circumnavigate it. So we will let him go and see if he can get one of his younger kinfolk in the family to help him decipher this for him. So, folks, I know I covered a lot here tonight. Sometimes we have to do that. Covered a lot here tonight. But keep your eyes and your ears open. They are going to work to indoctrinate the next generations to get them focused on race, which they've always done. But the goal now is to keep them talking about us so they don't have to talk about what they took from them, which has been the age-old strategy. Get them to look at black folks so they don't take a look at what they don't have. White folk been living poor as hell in the southern United States and now in New York and New Jersey and whatnot, and still getting together. And the topic of discussion is now, how do we subjugate and oppress them Negroes? If we're going to be poor whites, then we at least need to be above them. So they're no longer trying to take on the folk at the top. Can we just keep our privilege at the bottom? And now they're looking to see how they can indoctrinate the next generation. We'll be there. We'll be there. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. I want to thank everyone who's contributed for tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Shout out here to the Jughead. Thank you very much for your support tonight. We appreciate that. To Kinsale, FBA Queen, JM, Ghost Rider, everybody else here, thank you very much for your support here tonight. Mogul Maze, if you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven. Okay, I had some folks who asked me about this, just so I can go ahead and cover this real quick. I don't really try to cross-promote things. You all know I don't ever do that. However, my other YouTube channel, I think most of y'all already know about that, The Business. So just look for the Gold B. My other YouTube channel is The Business. For those of you who are not aware of it, you can definitely go ahead and check that out. So I have a Patreon there where we deal with that's. I've had folk ask me for years and years and years about, Jason, what do you read? What do you read? What do you recommend reading? And so basically I'm going over the books and I'm deciphering them. The 48 Laws of Power is just one that we're doing right now. We're going to be doing a lot more here. We've done more and we're going to be doing more. So for the folks who've been asking me about this, you can stop emailing. If you want to check it out, it's The Business here on YouTube. Just look for the Gold B. Although I think most of y'all already know about that, so everything's cool there. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend, holidays, some days in between. And hopefully we have earned your subscription on tonight's program to click that red subscribe button. And if we haven't, that's okay. Come back next week. We'll have another opportunity to earn your subscribe again. If you haven't been to our website, Black Channel Films, the link, Black Channel Films, I think the link's in the description. BlackChannelFilms.com. That is BlackChannelFilms.com to see our best-selling, groundbreaking documentary work. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to tonight's program live or recorded. Thank you all for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.